Alright, welcome back to This Kid's Opinion, and it is finally March Madness time. The 68 teams have been officially announced for March Madness. A lot of controversy, some teams that should have made it, some teams that do not deserve being here. We're going to go through all of it, and hopefully we can get the first ever perfect bracket. So let's waste no time. First up, we got Auburn. So I got Auburn. And then here is a very tough matchup. Actually, these two matchups are probably the hardest to pick in the entire tournament. So it's very key that we get these. So first off is Louisville versus Creighton. Louisville was done insanely dirty. They are for some reason an 8 seed. Meanwhile, let's look over to a team that they are better than. Number 5 seed Clemson. Now, Louisville finished ahead of them in the ACC, and they also beat them in the ACC tournament. So I don't know what happened there. It's almost like the committee forgot something, which is just weird. But they're going to take on Creighton. Creighton's a really solid team. They have a few good shooters on this team. They have Ryan Kalkbrenner, who is a big man that can block shots, grab offensive rebounds. And that's why this is tough for Louisville, because they have really good guards. They have really good scoring. But they don't have the best of paint defense. And I feel like Ryan Kalkbrenner could do some damage there. But I'm gonna trust in the many scoring guards for this team. Chucky Hepburn. You got Javon Hadley. Terrence Edwards. Meanwhile, Creighton does not have as many options. They have a few guys that average 5 points that can get hot out of nowhere, but they don't do that consistently. So I'm going to trust in Louisville to move on into the second round. And then next up is, once again, another very hard one. It's Michigan and UC San Diego. UC San Diego is a team that plays really good defense. They make some good threes. However, they allow a lot of offensive rebounds. They don't have the best of paint defense. They have good mid-range defense, but their paint defense is a little weak. And that's where Michigan could do some damage, because they have some twin towers with Danny Wolf and Vladislav Golden. They also have Trey Donaldson, their starting point guard. But this team does not have a lot of depth at all. Same thing with UC San Diego, but they have a solid starting lineup. So this matchup is really hard. UC San Diego has a lot of guys that can play really good defense, and if they shut down Donaldson, it'll be hard for them to get the ball to their bigs. So, but I'm gonna have to pass on this 12v5 upset. I just think Michigan is going to grab so many rebounds, especially offense rebounds, and just dominate the paint in this game. And it pains me because this is a close one. I feel like I should trust my gut and go with UC San Diego, but I'm gonna go with Michigan this one. So yeah, that's a very coin flip of a matchup there. Same thing with Creighton and Louisville, but I'm gonna go with Michigan. And next up we got Texas A&M and Yale. I'm gonna go with Texas A&M in this one. I really like the guards. Obviously Wade Taylor, Garcia is really good. Then I really like Terrell Payne and also Henry Coleman. They're gonna clean up the glass for them. I think this is a really balanced team. They obviously beat Auburn recently. They're playing really well. They have good defense, and they have a few solid scores on this team. So I think they're going to beat Yale. I don't think we're going to have another Yale upset this year. Yale has a pretty good offense, but I think Texas A&M is overall the more balanced team. So I'm going to go with them. Next up, we got Ole Miss. They're going to play either San Diego State University or North Carolina. I think that they would definitely beat San Diego. I think UNC is the harder matchup, and I can't believe that UNC made the tournament. They should not be here, but I think they would give Ole Miss the harder matchup. I do think overall Ole Miss is going to come out on top and advance to round of 32. I really like Sean Badula, who is a really good scorer for them. And overall, this team plays amazing defense, and I think they can lock up RJ Davis if they face him or anybody on San Diego State. And next up, we got Iowa State versus Lipscomb. I don't see an upset here. Iowa State, they're going to have basically all their players back. They've been injured for a large part of the season, and they're still doing really well. Curtis Jones has really stepped up and has become a star player. Then they're going to have Taman Lipsey. And yeah, I really like this Iowa State team. They did well in March Madness last season, so I'm going to pick them to advance on. And then we got Marquette versus New Mexico. I'm going to go with New Mexico in this one. Marquette relies on having the better point guard in the matchup, and now this is actually a matchup where you can debate on if they have a better point guard of Cam Jones, because of Donovan Dent, who's an excellent scoring guard. And this New Mexico team, just like last season, they're very dangerous. I don't like Marquette as a team. I think they're really inconsistent, and Cam Jones has to play insane hero ball sometimes, and he's not going to be able to score 30 every single game. This could be where he doesn't have a good game. Marquette is just screwed at that point. So I'm going to trust in New Mexico being the better offensive team and getting hot when it matters most in the first round. So I'm going to go with New Mexico over Marquette. And we got Michigan State versus Bryant. I'm going to go with Michigan State this one. I really like this Michigan State team, especially if you've kept up with my recent videos. So I'm going to have to move on. And let's finish out this region. So we got Auburn versus Louisville. Really good matchup, but I think Janai Broome is going to obliterate the paint of Louisville. I was already concerned about Ryan Kalkbrenner in the Creighton game, but Janai Broome, top 5 player in college basketball right now. So this team is really well balanced. They have really good three-point shooting, and then Janai Broome is just a cherry on top to be that just beast in the paint for them. So I really like this Louisville team. It sucks they got a terrible draw. Going against a 1 seed in the second round is ridiculous. I think they could have done some real damage if they were a 5 seed like they're supposed to be. So I'm going to go with Auburn in this one, and a close one. And then Michigan, Texas A&M. I'm going to go with Texas A&M in this one. I think that Terrell Payne, Henry Coleman Jr. are going to lock up Danny Wolf and Vladislav Golden. And they have solid defensive guards that are going to take care of Donaldson. So I think this might be an easy win for Texas A&M. And then Ole Miss versus Iowa State. Not to be chalky, but I'm going to go with Iowa State in this one. I like this Ole Miss team, but they did get a tough draw in Iowa State in the second round because Iowa State is basically a really beefed up Ole Miss team. They have the solid defense foundation, but they have more scoring, so I'm going to trust in Iowa State. And then a good one, Michigan State, New Mexico. This is a close one, but I'm going to lean towards Michigan State. This team is deep, especially with their big men. And I really like Jaden Akins and also Jace Richardson. They're just going to keep getting better. They've been growing all season. And I'm just really high on this Michigan State team. Also, Cohen Carr is the X factor for them. Just a beast in transition. So I'm going to take State in that one. And then Auburn versus Texas A&M. Texas A&M just beat Auburn in a shocker, which kind of started this spiral downturn for the Auburn. But I'm going to say Auburn doesn't lose this time around. I think they make the adjustments. Texas A&M is at times can be pretty inconsistent on offense, and I'm going to say Auburn gets the revenge against Texas A&M in the Sweet 16 and advance to the Elite 8. And then I'm going to take Michigan State over Iowa State. Like I said, I just really like the Michigan State team, and I think they could potentially be a Final Four team. And that's eventually what I'm going to select. I think they're going to upset the number 1 seed, the number 1 overall seed in the tournament, Auburn Tigers. And I'm gonna have the Michigan State Spartans advance to the Final Four. But that's just me. I could easily see Auburn winning, maybe Iowa State beating Michigan State, but it's just how I feel in my heart. I think Michigan State is a really good team in my opinion. So let's head over to the other region, the East region. We got Duke as a 1 seed. I'm gonna obviously have them move on. And then here's another tough one. These 8-9 matchups are always tricky to predict in March Madness, but we got Mississippi State. Josh Hubbard, he's going to take on Jeremy Roach and VJ Edgecombe and Baylor. I'm going to go with Baylor in this one. Jeremy Roach was a former Final Four point guard for Duke, and also VJ Edgecombe is a really good offensive player. I think that alone is going to be better than just Josh Hubbard, basically. Josh Hubbard, like Cam Jones and Marquette, plays a lot of hero ball. And I don't like that. Mississippi State always like a popular 8-9 team, and they never really do well in the tournament. So I'm going to go with Baylor, who had championship experience. Jeremy Roach especially does. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Baylor, trusting their experience in this matchup. And then our next 5v12 matchup is Oregon versus Liberty. I'm going to go with Oregon in this one because they're basically like the Iowa State-Ole Miss matchup. Oregon is just a really beefed up version of Liberty. And then the X factor for them is Nate Biddle, who I think is going to dominate the paint. I don't think Liberty has a single defender that can match up well with Nate Biddle, so I think he'll be the reason they win this game and avoid the 5v12 upset against Liberty. Then Arizona, Akron. I actually really like this Arizona team. Caleb Love, Visar, Bradley, RJ Lewis. They have a lot of guys on this team. And I really like Visar. He's just been getting better as the season goes on. I think he'll dominate paint in this one. They just have a lot of ball handlers. They have a decent big Visar. And there's a pretty well-balanced team. So I'm going to go with Arizona in this one. And then BYU versus VCU. This is a tough one. I'm going to say that VCU has, with their incredible defense, their perimeter and interior defense, going to shut down the defense or the offense of BYU, just like Houston was able to. Obviously, VCU is nowhere near the level of Houston, but similar kind of team, and we saw how bad BYU looked against them. So, and BYU also got wins over an injured Iowa State team. That's what got them to such a high seed at number 6. So I'm gonna say VCU gets the upset against BYU. I like the BYU team. They have a lot of shooters, but I'm gonna say the perimeter defense of VCU is too much for them, and we got a pretty big upset here. And then Wisconsin versus Montana. I'm gonna go with Wisconsin this one. I'm really high on this Wisconsin team. I love the Johnnies on this team. John Tonje is just excellent closer of a game. He is such a good shooter, and the same can be said for John Blackwell. Those two are just elite scorers. And they also have Nolan Winter and Stephen Crow, who are bigs that can grab offensive rebounds, and they can also stretch out the floor. So I really like that for them. They just have a lot of options on this team, have a good bench as well. So I'm going to go with Wisconsin, avoiding the upset against Montana. If it's St. Mary's versus Vanderbilt, I'm going to go with St. Mary's. Vanderbilt was pretty hot midway through the season, but has slowly just depreciated. They haven't been doing as well. And St. Mary's, I think the rebounding defense is going to help them avoid an upset here. They just have a solid foundation for a team to advance to the round 32. So I'm going with St. Mary's in that one. Then Alabama versus Robert Morris. Robert Morris is not going to be able to outscore Alabama, and that's what their specialty is. So, and Alabama, it's very hard to outscore them. Literally Florida and like Auburn are like the teams that can do it. So I'm going to go with Alabama easily against Robert Morris. And then Duke versus Baylor. I'm going to go with Duke in this one. Baylor is not the greatest team. I think they're good enough to beat Mississippi State, but how much is that really saying? So I think Jeremy Roach is not going to be able to do well against his former team, and I'm going to have Duke move on. It's been a really good game. Oregon versus Arizona. I really hope this actually happens because this is an insane matchup. However, I think I'm going to go with Arizona in this one. Unfortunately, I really like this Oregon team. They have a lot of shooters. I really like Nate Biddle. But Arizona, I think, has the better guards in this one. Visar and Biddle are really even when it comes to the bigs. I just think that they have a championship-level point guard in Caleb Love. And, they just have more ball-handling options. So I like that for Arizona in this one, beating Oregon. But if you want to pick Oregon, that's not a bad pick at all. I can see that happening. And then VCU versus Wisconsin. A lot of people are going to have VCU be their Cinderella team. They're my number one Cinderella team in my video for the best Cinderella teams. But I'm actually going to have Wisconsin move on. Like I said, I really like this Wisconsin team. I think they're the most talented team VCU has faced all season. I do not think they're going to be ready for John Blackwell, John Tonje making ridiculous shots and avoiding these potential Cinderella run of VCU. In St. Mary's versus Alabama, I think this could be a just bloodbath of a game for Alabama. I think they could destroy St. Mary's. I don't think they'll be able to keep up with Alabama at all. St. Mary's turns the ball over a lot, and we know that Alabama can score in transition. So I'm going to go with Alabama easily for this one. And Duke versus Arizona. I don't see Arizona upsetting Duke. Duke is just too deep. They've shown that even without Cooper Flagg, they could still beat Louisville pretty easily. So go with Duke in this one, advancing to the Elite Eight. And then we got Wisconsin versus Alabama. And guys, I'm going to go with Wisconsin in this one. They're a 3 seed, but they're definitely not one of the more popular 3 seeds. So I think this is a pretty good pick here if you want to get some bonus points. So I'm going to go for Wisconsin over Alabama, which was actually a pretty good upset because Alabama is really good this season. I will admit that. They're really good. I think they're better than last year's Final Four team. I just think they got a really good draw and some good upsets in there. But I think this year's Wisconsin team is no joke. Haven't been playing the best of well recently, but I think with a good week to game plan for these teams, I think they're going to do really well. I really like this Wisconsin team. So are they good enough to beat Duke? In my opinion, they're not. I think this is where their run ends. And this Duke team is no joke, guys. So this isn't a 1 seed where it's like, oh, are they really as good as like they're saying? Duke really is that good. I don't care if they're playing in a bad ACC. This team is so good, and they passed the eye test for me. So I'm going to go with Duke over Wisconsin after making a really deep run in the Elite Eight. All right, on to the West. We got Florida as a 1 seed. I think they'll take care of Norfolk State. And then UConn versus Oklahoma. I'm going to roll for UConn here. They've been playing really good recently, which is good to see for the two-time defending champions over Oklahoma, who is a struggling team. And I'm really surprised that they made it easily into the tournament as a 9 seed. Then we got Memphis versus Colorado State. A lot of people are going to pick this as a 12v5 upset. I'm not. I like this Memphis team. They have a lot of guards. And PJ Haggerty, Tyrese Hunter, Kobe Rogers, they have a lot of really good scoring guards. Each of those guys could just drop 30 easily. And I think they're going to be too much for Colorado State out of the Mountain West. And then we got Maryland versus Grand Canyon. I really like this Maryland team. I want to rock with them easily in this matchup. I think they'll be able to outscore and also definitely out-rebound and protect the rim well against Grand Canyon. And then Missouri versus Drake. I'm going to be real. This year's March Madness probably has the weakest potential Cinderella teams. Maybe this line's going to age terribly. Hope it doesn't, but I don't like Drake at all. The rapper and the team. I think this team is literally relying on a decent, slow-paced defense and then Ben Sturtz, and that's it. I think if you have a team like Missouri has multiple guys who can score the ball, and then Mark Mitchell is going to obliterate them in the paint, I think it's just a recipe to have basically a false, Cinderella team. I think Missouri's going to win this one easily against Drake, who just don't have enough juice against Missouri. And then we got Texas Tech versus UNC Wilmington. I really like this Texas Tech team. Going to have to move on easily. And then this is an interesting one. Kansas versus Arkansas. Arkansas has been playing pretty well recently. But do they have enough to guard Zeke Mayo? Do they have enough to guard Hunter Dickinson, DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams? I'm going to say no. I'm going to roll with Kansas in this one. I think that a different 10 seed could easily upset them, but I don't think Arkansas is the team to do it. They are so streaky, and Kansas is also streaky as well. But they have really experienced team. I think Zeke Mayo can take over a game easily, drop 30 for you. Hunter Dickinson can do the same. KJ Adams is a really good big man in transition. DeJuan Harris is a decent point guard. So I'm gonna say Kansas beats Arkansas. And then St. John's versus Omaha. I also really like the St. John's team. I think that not to spoil, but I think they're going to destroy Kansas if this matchup does happen. And then Florida versus UConn. I'm going to roll with Florida in this game. I think that if Creighton is pushing you to the limit like Creighton was able to do against UConn in their conference tournament, I think Florida is going to do some work. So I'm going to have Florida because they have so many options, especially their big men. They have literally like a 4 bigs that they can run 20 minutes each game and just do work for them. Alex Condon, Henlock, Howe, they just have so many guys. And then obviously their big 3 for their scoring, Walter Clayton Jr., Elijah Martin, and Will Richards are just ridiculous. They can all, like the guards for Memphis, put up 30. I think they're going to be too much for UConn. Then Memphis versus Maryland. I'm going to roll with Maryland. Derek Queen, Julian Reese, Jacoby Gillespie, Rodney Rice. These are all really good players that make up one of the best starting lineups in all of college basketball. And also, Selton Miguel is basically the glue guy for them. Really good ball handler and defender, and also can run in transition. Really like this Maryland squad. I think they're going to take care of Memphis by being the deeper team and play some decent defense, especially in the paint. And then Missouri versus Texas Tech. I'm going to roll with Texas Tech in this one. This team has so many shooters, and they have a solid defensive foundation. And I think Missouri relies too heavily on Mark Mitchell. I think JT Toppin, their bigs, are going to be able to lock him up and secure a pretty easy win for Texas Tech. And St. John's versus Kansas, like I said earlier in the video, I'm going to have St. John's. I love this team. Kadary Richmond is basically Sean Livingston. He has an insane mid-range jumper. Also a good defender himself. Zuby Ejiofor is their paint beast, block shots, run. He's actually really good in transition. He's a really good guy that can run. They also have RJ Lewis, who is also really good in transition, but he can also put the ball on the floor and score for himself. I think they're going to be way too much for Kansas. They also have one of the best defenses in the entire league, one of the best coaches of all time, Rick Pitino. So St. John's, easy win for them against Kansas. Then Florida versus Maryland. This could get scary for Florida, but they have enough bigs to rotate against Julian Reese and Derek Queen to where I think they'll be fine when it comes to rebounding and paint defense. But I think that they are a way deeper team. Maryland, they have one of the best starting fives, but they have no bench, literally none at all. So I think Florida being the deeper team will allow them to beat Maryland. And then moving on to round out our Elite Eight is Texas Tech versus St. John's. This is a really close matchup. Yeah, this is a tough one. I think I'm going to go with St. John's. I think RJ Lewis, Kadari Richmond, Zuby Ejiofor are going to be too much for Texas Tech. And a close one. This could be a buzzer beater. This is a coin flip right here. Texas Tech and St. John's. Really good matchup. I'm going to roll with St. John's. I watched them more throughout the season. And like Michigan State, they just feel right to me. So I'm going to go with St. John's. And then Florida. Yeah, Creighton, UConn, these teams have put up really good matchups against St. John's. Florida's on another level, especially with their offense, and they're also a decent defensive team. So I'm going to have Florida advance to the Final Four. And we have one more region to go through before we get to the Final Four. We're getting through this. And then we got Houston against SIU Edwardsville. I'm going to go with Houston this one. I think this is the best Houston team we've seen in a long time. I think they're better than the Final Four team back in like 2019, 2020, I think it was. Because they actually have good shooters. I think look out for this Houston team. They are insanely good. But next up in the 8v9 matchup is a pretty good one. Gonzaga versus Georgia. I'm going to roll with the Zags in this one. I really like Andrew Nembhard as a point guard. And obviously guys like Graham Ike, Ben Gregg, they have some solid bigs. Battle's pretty good forward as well. So I like Gonzaga over Georgia. I mean, Clemson versus McNeese. Last year, McNeese, people were saying like, guys, this McNeese defense, they're going to do work in the tournament. They didn't end up doing well. They lost to Gonzaga in the first round. This team is even worse in my opinion, and I really like Clemson. I think Clemson is going to win this one easily. I wouldn't suggest this 5v12 matchup, but that's just my opinion. However, a 13 versus 4 upset that I like is High Point over Purdue. Purdue is a decent team. They have Braden Smith, CJ Cox, some decent shooters on this team. But I really like High Point because they do not turn the ball over. They have good shooting, solid defense. I think they're going to be too much for Purdue. I think they're going to be really surprised with how good this team actually is and advance on to the second round. So there's my 13 over 4 upset. And then Illinois versus either Texas or Xavier. I'm going to roll with Illinois in this one slightly. I think it's closer if they face Texas. I think that's a decent matchup for Texas, but I do think Illinois will still win that matchup. This team has been cold lately. They've been cold. I haven't liked this Illinois team all season. And then Kentucky versus Troy. I'm really surprised Troy is as high as a 14 seed. I don't like this team at all. I'm going to roll with Kentucky in this one. I actually really like this Kentucky team. It sucks that they don't have Jackson Robinson because I think they could easily be a bona fide Elite Eight Final Four team. But he's not going to be in this tournament. But guys like Kobe Brea, they have Lamont Butler, they have Amari Williams. This team is not just a bunch of 5-star prospects. This team is actually built and has team chemistry and actually fits together for once. John Calipari was never able to do that for Kentucky. Mark Pope was, and I like this Kentucky team this season. And then another difficult matchup, UCLA versus Utah State. I'm going to roll UCLA. I really like Mac. Billadou is also a good scoring forward. I think those two are going to be too much for Utah State, but it's a coin flip. Do whatever it feels like for you. And something that feels right for me is to pick Wofford over Tennessee, but I'm not going to because that is a crazy upset right there. That's crazy. But my soul really wants me to pick Wofford over Tennessee. If it actually happens, I'm going to be really sad that I didn't pick it. But I'm ultimately going to pick Tennessee. Pretty much because they recently beat Auburn. I haven't been high on this Tennessee team, but they're playing well recently. Put up a good fight against Florida. But I really want to pick Wofford. They have so many shooters that could just light it up against Tennessee. But I don't know, man. I'm just not going to pick Wofford. I really want to, but I'm not going to go with Wofford. So yeah, look out for that potential upset. I think this is the best 2v15 potential upset here. So look out for Wofford. And then Houston versus Gonzaga. I'm going to go with Houston this one. This team is way deeper than Gonzaga, play better competition. And they could potentially lock up injured Nembhard, which would be tragic for Gonzaga. And then Clemson versus High Point. This is a really good game. This is a tough one. High Point. I don't think they have enough. I think they have enough to get by Purdue, but Clemson, especially if Ian Scheffel in the paint, I don't know how they're gonna be able to handle him. But then Chase Hunter is an excellent closer and go-to scorer for them. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Clemson in this one. Hope High Point is able to move on. That would be pretty cool if they could make a Sweet 16. But I'm gonna go with Clemson in this one. The third best team in the ACC is not saying a lot, but if you don't look at how bad the ACC is this year, if you actually just try to use the eye test on Clemson, you'll see they're actually a pretty good team. And then Illinois versus Kentucky. I think Kentucky is going to win in a blowout. I think they're way better than Illinois. Yeah, I just don't like this Illinois team. Can't really tell you why. They're just streaky, and I don't like streaky in March Madness. And then here's a pretty good matchup: UCLA and Tennessee. I can see UCLA pulling off the upset, but I'm gonna go with Tennessee. I'm gonna trust in Tennessee. Back-to-back matchups they could lose in, so we could see some crazy work in the bottom of this bracket. But UCLA just simply does not have enough talent. I think Tennessee has more guys that can score, more guys that can defend, but not a bad matchup. I think Bildu could do some work against Tennessee, but I'm going to trust in Tennessee's defense. Then Houston versus Clemson. I'm going to go with Houston in this one. They are way deeper in Clemson. Clemson does not have the best of depth, but their starting lineup is pretty decent. But I'm going to go with Houston this one. LJ Cryer has really stepped up. They still have Jawan Roberts. This team is just so deep, like Miles Uzan, Malik Wilson, Emmanuel Sharp. Like, these are some really good players for Houston this season. And then Kentucky versus Tennessee. I'm going to rock with Kentucky. Tennessee always struggles against teams that can light it up from three and play fast and score off turnovers from Tennessee. And that's exactly what Kentucky is. So I'm going to rock with Kentucky. And does Kentucky have enough to take on Houston? One of these teams stole each other's logos. I'm going to assume Kentucky came first with their logo. But I'm going to rock with Houston. I think they're going to be able to clamp up Kobe Bryant. And if Kobe Bryant can't score, that's terrible for Kentucky. He's the heart and soul of this team. And yeah, I'm going to rock Houston. And we got 3 number 1 seeds in our Final Four. But I feel like I did a good job of having teams like Wisconsin make a good enough run. I had Maryland go pretty far. So yeah, I don't think I did a straight chalk with this bracket. I had some few upsets in here. High Point over Purdue is a pretty good one in my opinion. I had VCU over BYU. Yeah, not a lot of chalk, but this is just how I feel. I had New Mexico over Marquette. I think this is a pretty good bracket. Hopefully it ends up this way. Hopefully this is the perfect bracket. Most likely not, but it's just what I feel. I'll probably put out some more videos about like some brackets that I think maybe work better analytically. But we'll get to that later. Let's now get through our Final Four. Michigan State versus Florida. I'm a rock of Florida. Michigan State is a deep team, but they're inconsistent offensively. They have a good defensive foundation. But Florida, it doesn't matter how good you are of defense, they're just going to score on you. It doesn't matter who you are. They prove that time in and time out. I'm going to have Florida advance on to the championship game. And then Duke versus Houston. This is pretty much a coin flip, guys. Like, it is a coin flip. Tyrese Proctor, Sion James, Cooper Flagg. I'm going to rock Houston. I think Houston's deeper. They play better competition. I really like LJ Cryer. I really like Jawan Roberts. This team has really good guards off the bench for them, too. I'm going to say Houston beats Duke in the battle of the 1 seeds. And we have another 1 seed battle here. Florida versus Houston. Who is going to take it? This is once again another coin flip. But I live in Florida myself, and that's going to be the deciding factor. I got the Florida Gators beating Houston, and I'm going to say it's a pretty close game. Let's rock with 63-58. And yeah, that's going to do it for this video. I'm going to have Florida as my national champion, my bracket. My Final Four ended up being Michigan State, Florida, Duke, and Houston. I think this is a really good bracket. I'm curious to see what y'all think in the comments. Make sure to comment if you think I'm crazy, any matchups you think I should have picked differently on. And I'm going to have some more videos come out with some different brackets. So this isn't the end all be all, but this is my main bracket. But I'll have some more for you guys. I appreciate the support on these March Madness videos. They're doing pretty well. So make sure to like, subscribe to keep seeing these videos. But also, I'm not one of these March Madness YouTubers where, this is all I got to offer. The channel is called This Kid's Opinion. I make videos on literally everything. Movies, shows, albums, pop culture stuff. I'll talk about it. So make sure to subscribe because I'm not just a March Madness YouTuber. But I got some pretty good content, not going to lie. So yeah, like I said, make sure to like, subscribe, comment if you agree or not. But hey, I'm just a kid, And this is my opinion.